Hi everyone! Today I'm going to be showing you how I created this hyperrealistic drawing. These are the supplies that I used. They'll be listed in detail in the description below. To start, I drew the general outline of the upper and lower lid of the eye, and I placed the circular shapes of the iris and pupil slightly off-center. I'm drawing the limit of the upper eyelid to be half the diameter of the iris. I drew the eyebrows at a distance of approximately the length of the eye, from both the tear duct and the tip. Now I'm going to go in with my same 2B lead just to block in some general value areas. Doing this lightly will help me if my proportions or placement are off. I'm not using too much pressure here in case I have to erase. I do the same with the eyebrow just to ensure that the shape I've laid makes sense. With the underdrawing done, I'm going to start blending the light value that I added with my brush. Since we're going to be adding darker value to this progressively, it helps to blend underlying layers as you go. With my 7B pencil, I'm now going to be adding some of the darker values into this drawing, specifically in the iris and pupil, below the upper lid as well. Regardless of color, the iris generally has a radial gradient in which the outer and innermost parts are the darkest, leaving lighter areas in the middle. I'm not really following a pattern for the inside of the eye, more so randomly drawing some lines from the inner and outer portions. I blend as I continue to add value to ensure that every layer is smooth. When you blend, you generally lose the definition that you initially laid, so I use both my eraser and the mechanical lead pencil to redefine those edges as I go, just to not lose the initial foundations I laid. For the lid of the eye, I want the center to be a bit brighter than the left and right edges to insinuate some depth and protrusion into space. The same applies for the tear duct area, leaving the very edge of it brighter to show it coming forward in space. For the most part, I'm using my brush just with whatever lead is left on it in order to make these shadows not too stark. I progressively continue to add more and more pressure with my 7B pencil, and where I'm lacking some definition, I continue to go back with my 2B lead to define. Before working on the eyebrow, I want to darken the shadow a bit and clean up the lower line. I begin the eyebrow by adding hair-like long strokes to the shaded area using my 2B lead. Note that the hair in most eyebrows grow in 3 directions, shifting from upward to horizontal to downward. In order to achieve a more natural look, the pencil strokes definitely have to be a bit more sporadic here. Let loose. I add strokes of hair in layers in order to give the eyebrow more volume and try to refrain from over blending. A pretty similar approach is adhered to when I draw the eyelashes. Eyelashes have multiple directions of growth also, and they usually coincide with their position on the lid. The closer to the right will curve right, and those closer to the left will curve left. This isn't always the case, but for this example, it'll work. I'm blending more in order to give the eye a more hazy look and add a little bit more depth to the upper part of the lid. Note that I'm not adding any more pigment here, just blending what's already on the paper. At this point, I have to decide where I want to lay my highlights and shine for this drawing. So I lay some white charcoal down in areas that I want to bring forward. This is also a good way to indicate if you have areas that are not dark enough, because you'll notice a real lack in contrast. So now, noticing which parts of the drawing actually don't have enough darkness, I'll take the 7B pencil and go back in and add depth to those areas. Before adding highlights, I'm going to use my Mono Zero eraser just to clean up some details within the iris and along the folds of the lid. Also at the head of the eyebrow, just to make it look a little bit more sparse. This is when the drawing really starts to come to life. I'm going to be taking my white gel pen and adding some very bright highlights to this drawing. I place dots and spots in areas that I want to appear dewy or wet. Though normally I usually stick to only a few within the actual eye, in this drawing I ended up adding plenty of glow along the upper and lower lids as well. Since this gel pen can't be removed or blended once it's put down, the placement of these dots has to be a little bit more calculated. So think before you act. And after making a few last-minute adjustments, we're done. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you were able to follow along as well. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.